Favors, hard drive at Freeland to the cup, finishes in a foul. Ooh, man.
This is Gordon Hayward. We are ready to tip it off. Are you? Let's do this.
Good morning. We'll look at the Kevin Durant injury in our NBA 5 and the Jazz matchup with the Clippers tonight, as all those things seem pertinent on an early Monday or whatever you might be listening. It is tip-off. Pow. Hope everyone is well. I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. Certainly glad to be with you this morning and really appreciate you tuning in to this program. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, on Apple under Locked On Jazz. You can follow the feed on Stitcher, whatever podcatcher you have, and you can follow us on YouTube on the David Locke channel. So ways to do things. For those of you that are new to the program, I'm the radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. We open up each one of our programs with the NBA 5, which is 5 minutes of NBA stuff, and then we dig into the Utah Jazz. Today, though, we're going to do something a little different. I like this because it's cool. And I think the other day I finally figured out how to use this feature correctly, that everyone will see this video if I do it correctly. So if I do this correctly and you see this, this is the very, very well done by the NBA. The new ad campaign right there, and our crazy dancing John Stockton is evidently the representation of our organization at this point along the way. Let's hope we can have a good enough season where we knock through that a little bit. All right, let's do it. Let's do our NBA 5. Big news in the NBA, obviously, is the Kevin Durant injury. Massive news to the NBA and terrible news. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of OKC as a fan, but I love Durant. Want to watch him every time I can. To be without Durant is just terrible for the league. He has a Jones fracture in his foot. It's what C.J. McCollum had last year for Portland. He was out till as long as January. They're saying 8 weeks on Durant right now. 8 weeks does get you to December 15th. Anything that stretches that gets it to January. So huge news. And the impact on the on the Oklahoma City Thunder immediately is significant. It probably cost them 2 or 3 games, but 2 or 3 games in the standings is the difference. Somewhere, the Clippers, the Thunder, and the Spurs are on a different planet than the rest of the Western Conference. As much as everyone's talking about, to me, those teams are all title contenders, and I'm not sure I believe that anybody else is truly a title contender along the way. If you take Vegas, for example, they have the Oklahoma City Thunder as the number 1 seed before this injury at 57.5, the Spurs at 56.5, and the Clippers at 55.5, and then the Warriors at 50. So if Durant's injury, as Kevin Pelton projected on ESPN Insider, cost them 2 or 3 wins, they suddenly go from a 1 seed to a 3 seed and on the road in San Antonio in week number 2, or excuse me, in playoff round number 2 of the season. It's got huge, as much as we love, the 2 myths of the NBA that just simply aren't accurate, are the idea that, one, the regular season doesn't matter, and 2, that you only need to watch the fourth quarter. It's somewhat of a myth, because this is an example of where the regular season's really going to matter. If they finish 3rd, that's a big deal, because I think the Clippers are really legit and really good, and we'll talk about that coming up as we get ready for the Jazz and the Clippers. Couple that with the Spurs, who they are. San Antonio just does this. is not someone obviously going to mess with. This is not good for Oklahoma City. There's no other way to spin it. And there's two other things I think that are very worrisome. The burden on Westbrook is enormous, and his body's been anything but healthy. Two, it obviously exposes the weakness of Jeremy Lamb and the loss of, well, frankly, Caron Butler was terrible, but where they had Caron Butler last year, Anthony Morrow can't pick that up. Who plays the wing at Perry Jones? These guys have never quite gotten it going. Are they going to suddenly be able to with this type of opportunity? And the one I think will be most interesting for Oklahoma City is the reassimilation of Durant. To me, there's always been this little balancing act going on with his team that Durant is the man, but Westbrook has the ball in his hands, and you need Westbrook to acquiesce to some extent to Durant to be able to keep this team in balance, because Durant deserves many more possessions than Westbrook. He's much more efficient. He's a better player. He's the 4-time leading scorer in a row, and Westbrook seems to me to always be kind of on this, there's this perilous balance. Well, this perilous balance is now for the first time ever in Thunder history. They've had other injuries. Westbrook's gone down, Ibaka's gone down, other guys have gone down, but never has Kevin Durant gone down. And without Harden around, now this is Westbrook's club. Westbrook takes 25 shots a night now. He becomes an MVP candidate. He gets out of the shadow of Durant. He's good enough. He'll be terrific. But what happens when Durant comes back in this lineup? I think that's going to be the real issue, is whether or not the balance of this team ever returns. And I also just feel like the Thunder are on shaky ground, that this franchise has just knocked on the door, not gotten there, and at some point, guys just don't coexist for this long a period of time happily in the NBA. Bradley Beal out 6 weeks for Washington. That's Washington, Toronto. I have Toronto as my third best team in the East, but Washington could be right there as well. Big blow to them. Beal wrist injury out 6 weeks. That goes to Glenn Robinson. But the other case could be Otto Porter, who's played well this weekend. He had 14 points on Friday, had 12 points last night. He's played very well and probably will become the key to whether or not this thing succeeds or not. Without him, Glenn Rice will get the start in his place. Lakers got blown out by 41 last night. They took 3 3-point shots in the entire game. The New Orleans Pelicans are talking about starting Tyreke Evans as the starting 3, so you end up playing Drew Holiday with Eric Gordon, Tyreke Evans. That's probably good for Jimmer, who continues to play well in the preseason. Getting those backup guard minutes means the backup 2 no longer exists, so he really can play that role for Monty Williams a little bit, though Williams kind of crushed him a little bit in the media the other day with he's got to play defense. Keep an eye on P.J. Harrison. He was at North Carolina, got kicked out last year, goes to the D-League. He looks as ready, if not more ready, than any rookie right now in the league. Marcus Smart continues to kind of have on and off days. He had a decent day the other day, then Friday night, or maybe it was Saturday night, went 2 of 8 and 1 of 7 from 3 and just 4 of 8 from the line with 7 assists. Aaron Gordon is having Aaron Gordon days, 22 minutes, 6 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals in 23 minutes. He's Karolinko. Aaron Gordon is going to be completely like Karolinko. The other one is Gallinari. Played the other night. He in 15 minutes had 17 points for Denver. Keep an eye on that one. Ty Lawson evidently has a significant ankle injury from the end of last season. It turned out to be far more serious than they thought during the year. Was able to do very little work in the offseason until August because of that ankle. And so they may be, on the edge of being injured again. Without Lawson, they're not the same. But if Gallinari can come back, that turns out to be a pretty good year. By the way, keep an eye on C.J. Miles this year. Without Paul George out there, with George Hill probably not being a primary scorer, with Rodney Stuckey trying to play the 2, C.J. Miles could have a pretty good year for the Indiana Pacers, at least offensively. They just don't have a lot of offensive pieces in that puzzle at all along the way. That is your NBA 5, and this is Tip-Off.
This is Gordon Hayward. Remember, play with the pass.
Well, that is certainly something the Utah Jazz have done so far, and then we'll have a good test doing that again tonight as they play the LA Clippers. Tickets are available. Tickets are also available for a great 3-game pack, which includes the Rockets, LeBron, and Anthony Davis. Pretty cool little package there. I think it's presented by Papa John's, and so it's greatly discounted. You can call the operators at 801-325-2999. You can't do it if you're watching live right now because nobody else is awake to actually do this. This is going to be an interesting game tonight. Doc Rivers in pregame in Portland yesterday said that he would play his starters heavy minutes in Portland and then very little here tonight. So we may have limited time where the Jazz starters go up against the Clippers starters. The Clippers lost last night 119-114 in what looked close to an all-star game for much of it defensively. Blake played 24, DeAndre played 26, Chris Paul played 29, Barnes played 26, and Crawford played 26. So we may see some Jared Cunningham, some CD, Chris Douglas-Roberts, some Joe Ingles, which is a pretty interesting story. Joe Ingles is the Australian of bunkmate of Dante Exum, and I'll probably try to find this highlight for you in some of our interviews that we did. But Dante Exum, one of the questions I ask all the players in the get-to-know interviews is, who did your first autograph you ever got from a professional athlete? The first autograph that Dante Exum ever got is Joe Ingles, who is now his bunkmate on the Australian national team and coming in with the Clippers tonight. So cool little moment. A lot of Australian interest to all our friends down under is Brock Modem, Dante Exum, and Joe Ingles all could be on the floor tonight, depending how things play out. So the Clippers are interesting. I watched their game late last night, and they're really pushing the tempo. So maybe the best thing that the Jazz have done so far in 2 games is the transition defense. 10 points in Game 1 and 8 points in Game 2 against Portland, and Portland didn't have Lillard, but they didn't allow a transition point till midway through the third quarter. The Clippers are going to be a real test on that, whether it's Blake Griffin grabbing, rebounding, going, whether it's Chris Paul and his push, whether it's Jamal Crawford. This is going to be a real test for the Jazz. The other one that I think is going to be very interesting to watch tonight for the Jazz is the play of Spencer Hawes. One, he may work well for the Clippers. Clippers are actually lacking three-point shooting a little bit. If you look at them, their leading three-point shooter coming back this year is J.J. Redick, but then after that it's Chris Paul and Jamal Crawford, who are both at 36%, and then it drops off. So they probably need another boost a little bit. Whether Jordan Farmar is going to be able to be that guy off the bench, I'm not sure. But Spencer Hawes is a stretch 4. The one real concern with Enes Kanter trying to play, and he's played very well in the first 2 games, probably the most pleasing for the coaching staff so far, I think, is Enes Kanter in the way he has played, the way he's done the little things, the way he has kind of just grown in his development. And this is tough because guarding the stretch 4 in Spencer Hawes is something he's got to figure out how to do. And Hawes is not someone who can dribble by him, so he just has to go out and close out and play him correctly. And that will be a very interesting matchup for that part of the game. Other things, just continue to watch the ball movement. The more you dig into, and I bought a video program last night so that I can start to do some of this stuff for you. I kind of want to wait till the regular season, but the more you dig into Quinn's offense, the more interesting things that are coming out of it, little impacts inside of it. I mean, the Gordon Hayward dunk play, also on the similar play, Hayward gets another play. It's also the same play that led to a Trey Burke with some variation, with a Trey Burke wide open 3 in the left corner. So you can see the beginning of the options off the various things offensively. And you also begin to see huge creativity out of Quinn, out of timeouts. His after timeouts plays in Portland in Game 2 were incredibly successful. And that's probably a big deal just in the sense that it gives Quinn confidence, which I don't think he lacks, but it gives the team a lot of confidence in how they receive Quinn and see what he's doing with everything in that regard. So keep an eye on those things today. Very impressive in a lot of ways by the Jazz in the opening 2 nights. They practiced both Saturday and Sunday. They cut D. Boast, really nice kid. I got to know him a little bit. Really nice kid. And Kevin Murphy. Both of those, if they don't sign somewhere else, end up in Idaho. Was primary reason why they were here was to get exposed to the system and then go be able to implement it in Idaho. No surprises there. I don't know whether we'll make another set of cuts tomorrow before we go Wednesday on a long road trip. It's customary that we made some coming up. Sometimes we have made that, and other times we've had some injuries and we haven't made it. We should see Rodney Hood for the first time tonight, and that'll be a lot of fun. Let's Um, let's run through a few of these questions. Savion Wallace, do you think the Heat is a different team without LeBron? Yes. Remember Cleveland, when LeBron left and nobody else, went from the number one team in offense to the 30th ranked team in offense, and the number one or two team in defense to the 30th ranked team. That will not happen to Miami because they have a better infrastructure and a better coach in Eric Spoelstra and still have Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. But the impact of losing LeBron is magnificent. Forrest Scott, do you think D. Will, Boozer, A.K. Memo all would have played in Utah longer? They won a championship. Sure, absolutely. I mean, I still think there's, Darren spends his off seasons here. At the time, I think Darren wanted to go see something else along the way, and the fact is that we traded him. Really run through those guys. We traded Darren Williams. Boozer went and took money. AK we didn't offer. Memo retired. So sure, they all would have said. They all would have stayed. I mean, so Ryan Dangerfield. Last week when I said Quinn Snyder's system was similar to Owly, are you kidding? I mean, dude. All right. So the only reason I'm duding you is because Pelton told me you're incessant on this. Okay, so maybe you're now good. You're giving me an explanation. Last week when I said Quinn Snyder's system was similar to Adam and Carl and Phil Jackson's, I was referring to an emphasis on fast-paced defensive rating and passing the ball. I talked to Kevin Pelton. What does talk to mean? I'm up your butt, by the way, on this one. He agreed that Quinn's system is like Adelman's. Okay, it's like Adelman's. Kevin Pelton's right. There's so many things in a system. So I answered that question exactly as I perceived. He doesn't run the triangle, so he's not like Phil Jackson. Carl was a pure fast break team with not a lot of structure. He's not that. And Adelman ran a very similar to a Sloan flex. He doesn't run that. He's incredibly ingenious in what he's doing. He's running an offense that's different and has principles that are different than any team in the NBA right now. There's no one else doing some of the things Quinn Snyder's doing. So I don't think he's similar to these guys. I actually think he's somewhat cutting edge. And I think that when you and I guess if we frankly don't know what his defensive rating is going to be and on his team, there's certainly an emphasis on pace of play. So and maybe I don't know Rick Adelman's system well enough that you're speaking of, because I think of Adelman back to his Portland days and his Sacramento days and his Warrior days and a little bit of his Minnesota days, but that was a little different with Pekovic and Love playing something very similar to the Sloan essence of offense. This is nowhere near that. So that's how I'm interpreting your question. That's what I mean. I apologize I didn't give you the right enough props that you are still hammering on this. Congratulations. You got Pelton to agree with you. I don't know what to say. I love your passion. I'll give you that, Ryan. I'm a big fan of that. It's 6:20 in the morning or 6:50 in the morning, which means, one, I got to go, and two, maybe I'm too tired to take questions like this. But Pelton said to me, dude, what's up with this guy? And I was like, well, he evidently really wants me to get that Quinn's system is like Adelman. I will try to ask some other people, Ryan, about it and see if I understand your question better to get a better understanding of it. How's that? Great. Now, we've come to common ground. We can end this show. Have a good day. Follow us on Facebook, David Locke and Locked On Sports. Google Plus is the Locked On Sports Google Plus community. Locked On Sports on Twitter. Have a great day and be safe.